Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We are here. Another Friday. We are live on this. This is our usual lunch and learn. Welcoming everyone. Welcome in. Thank you so much for coming in to share with us. Okay, we are getting an echo right there. Let's see if it's a phone. Dr. Howell and Dr. Marcy, anyone has their phone on?
Not at all.
No, but we can't hear the echo on our side.
Very much so.
Wow.
It sounds good on our side.
All right, we're getting a serious echo. Let me see again. Thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you. Oh, wow. We are okay. Already, thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. In the age of technology, in the age of technology, it is indeed the age of technology. We want to thank you so much for staying with us. Welcome. It's Friday and it's July 28th. We're almost at the end of the month. And here we are, one more Friday, sitting in with you for another lunch and learn. And today we are talking about balancing work and life, balancing work and our personal life. We hear a lot about work life balance, and sometimes we wonder what is meant by this work life balance. And we say all kind of things sometimes when we think about this work life balance. But today we want to shed some more light on this work life balance, what it really means to all of us, and are we really trying to maintain a good work life balance? The one thing I want to say, work life balance is not always the easiest thing to maintain or to manage. But I also believe that all things are possible once you believe and once you decide to put your all into it, to be consistent and to be intentional. You will finally get to that balance both in your life and in your work. So, Dr. Marcia, if you were to talk to this audience and tell them what you think or what you believe is real work life balance, how would you talk to them?
I would want to say good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I would want to say I am going to be using a symbol or metaphor. And I would want to say if you put a whale and a fish beside each other, then if you're not balanced, then a whale is not at the other side, it is a fish. And so the whale would mean that something takes up or occupies more of your time than something else. In this case, it would be that if you're off balance, then the whale would be 75% of either work or personal life, and the fish would be either 25% of your work or personal life. So a balance means that it is 50-50. If a fish is on one side, the same size fish is on the other. And if a whale is on the next side, the same size, the other side also has a whale. Or it could be that you're carrying two baskets. Those baskets are swung over your shoulder, but one basket has no bottom at all, and that basket has nothing to hold it up because the other basket is where you're putting in everything. And that if you are able to put the same weight in each of your baskets or have the same amount of things there, then there's a balance and an equilibrium that balances you and keep you together.
Wow, that was Dr. Marcia Thomas Powell. I forget to introduce us at the beginning. And she talked about the fish and the whale and that basket that is lopsided. She is a Christian life a consultant and coach. She's also a strategic leadership coach. And we also have here Dr. Sigfred Howell. He's a life happiness and relationship consultant and a master life coach. And as usual, I'm yours truly, Dr. Janice Brooks. Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. But yes, a life strategist always helping you to build your life on a firm foundation. Thank you so much again for joining us. And if you're in here with us, go ahead and drop where you're joining us from in the chat right there. If you're in the Caribbean, Jamaica, Trinidad, Antigua, Barbados, wherever you are, St. Lucia. If you're across a state in the United States, please go ahead and drop where you're, Australia, South Africa, wherever. Let us know where you're joining us from. And if you're watching the replay, please go ahead and put hashtag replay so that we can see that you came back and you have listened to us. Dr. Howell, Dr. Marcia just talked about the whale and the fish and that unbalanced kind of thing. How would you describe the work-life balance?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I haven't eaten fish in a while, and now you got me thinking about eating some steamed fish. And so thank you for that piece right there. But the work-life balance to me is something that's difficult to achieve. I want to say it's close to near impossible to achieve because of this particular fact. You have to balance your professional commitments with your personal well-being, as well as your personal relationships and self-care. And so if you look at the three main ones, which is self-care, your relationships, and professional goals, those three things have to be balanced. And I would dare to say that most of us can balance two well, but we always struggle with the third. And so whether it's family time or letting yourself go or saying, I'm not going to let this job kill me, so you balance your family and self-care, there's always going to be something that's slightly off. And so because it's dynamic, that means that your work demands change, but your home life also changes. So for example, you might, let's say you're a lawyer and you just got married. Then you're just balancing your relationship with your self-care and your law business. But if you're trying to start a business, then you're going to have to put a lot of time into starting that business and nurturing that business. So self-care or relationship is going to have to, take a back seat. Or suppose you had a fairly decent balance, but then you got a child or you got a baby in the mix, and now the baby is sick, or the baby has health issues, or your wife has complications, or your husband has complications, then there's going to be a difficult transition where you try to get used to the new obligations that's been put in your lap. And so it is almost impossible to get a good balance, but it is most likely, here's what I want to say. A work-life balance is intentional, which means that you're going to do everything in your power to make it as balanced as humanly possible. And where you fall short, God will pick up the slack.
Wow. That is very good, Dr. Howell. Where we fall short, God will pick up the slack. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking while you were talking, Dr. Howell, and as Dr. Marcia also said, our life is like a scale. And whatever we weigh in that scale, if one side of the pan is too low, then something is weighing on one side too much. And so this is what we talk about. We talk about work and life balance. Many a times we are led to believe that we have to work hard. We have to give more time to our work, because if we don't, we are going to get to a place where we don't have certain things in life and we don't achieve certain things. But working hard And working long hours does not necessarily amount to success or significance. And so, Dr. Marcy, I want to come over to you. What are some of the signs that people see in their lives to know that they need to have a good work and personal life balance?
First of all, I just want to put some things in perspective from a well, God is in charge of this world and he gives us certain principles that we must follow. Once we get ourselves out of that whack, we get ourselves in trouble. And it is the world that seems to be setting the standards for everyone. But the Bible says, those who strive for the mastery is temperate in all things, not some, but all things. It also goes back to say, if you seek first the kingdom of God, then every other thing falls into place. So, what is it that I lack when I'm not able to balance work and my personal life? What do I lack? I lack an understanding of who God is and what He will do for me, who He has created and provided things for. And so I wanted to put that in that context, and it might appear offensive or a little off to some persons, but Solomon had that experience. His personal life was so out of whack that when he really settled down, he recognized that all of these things are vanity and vexation of spirit. They keep you out. And so he called upon God and he asked for wisdom, he asked for knowledge, and he asked for understanding. So the first thing that we must bear in mind to understand that we are out of whack is that we do not have any time to acknowledge God and His place in our lives. If God does not give us breath, we cannot get up and work and make Him our work and our life out of balance. The very breath that we take, we must understand that if we do not have any time to acknowledge God and He's working in our lives, and to even thank Him for waking us up in the morning, then that's a sign that we are not balanced. The next thing is we tend to sacrifice our families for work. And when all is said and done, if we get sick, as Dr. Howell mentioned, if our child gets sick, then our child takes second place fiddle. And we hide behind the excuse that if we do not provide the resources to pay for the doctor bill, then the child will die. But that is because we have put our mind in a place where we want to be comfortable with the imbalance. A lot of times you're out of work because you are very irrational when you have to make certain decisions. You are very irritable. You don't want your children to bother you. Certain questions irritate you. You do not have time to clean your house. Your home becomes a place where you just shower and change your clothes. If that is happening, you are out of whack. You are constantly checking emails even when you are sitting. And here's a very good one. When you are at rest, if you sit for more than 5 minutes, you fall asleep where you are sitting. That is a serious sign that your work and your personal life is out of whack. And you miss every doctor's appointment, and you are always early for work, and you are always the last one to leave, and then your family suffers. You sacrifice your family at all times and their needs.
Wow. Dr. Marcia, that was deep, but thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here and we thank you for joining us. We are here today talking about work-life balance. And as I listened to Dr. Marcia, that made some very crucial points. I do not want any of us to think that this is something that is easy to achieve in our lives. Many of us have had this out of balance work and life from we were children, from we were growing up. We come and we inherit it from our parents. I talked how my father was a farmer and he used to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and he's gone to his field and he's back way late in the evening. Sometimes I don't see him because he comes so late. And so that was his kind of work life. We also talked a few weeks about the epidemic of busyness and how we were socialized and brought up to believe that we can't sit one place. we have to get up and go do something. And so we're always working, doing something. And so this creates an out of balance situation in our lives. And it is not an easy thing to overcome. It's not an easy thing sometimes when we have done 15, 20, 30 years. I can look back at my many years in at work. I used to be one of the first ones to get there, and sometimes one of the last one, as Dr. Marcia just said, to leave, because I thought that doing all of this would have get me to the place I wanted to get to and would give me so much. Don't get me wrong, I have achieved so much. But looking back and now knowing what real life balance is, I wish I could have done differently back then. But now we have the opportunity to learn and to know and to be able to do things differently. The scripture in Psalms, I think 37, verse 37 says, "Mark the perfect man, because the end of that man is peace." That man, perfect man, is the man who balances his life. And so I want to ask Dr. Howell the question. Dr. Howell, do you believe that there is a perfect work-life balance?
No. Next question. No, I'm playing. I do not believe it's possible, and one of the reasons why I said that is because life has given us certain perspectives. For example, when you're young, you have the energy, but you don't have the money, so you're willing to work any job. You work hard, you outlet, you do whatever. You know, you want that money, you're chasing that dollar. When you're older, you have wisdom, you may have money, but now you don't have the energy. And so a lot of times we put a lot of emphasis on getting our career ready, getting that money. And we'll sacrifice time, we'll sacrifice health, we'll sacrifice our family. And then we realize, man, by the time you start to spend time with your family, you realize we don't have that much in common. We grew apart because we weren't going in the same direction. And so now you don't have a relationship with your kids. You may not have a relationship with your spouse. And then on top of that, now you have health issues. And so, like I said earlier, you need to be intentional about trying to get that balance. But I don't think it's something that we ever achieve, because the work demands are always dynamic. Sometimes you're working hard, sometimes you get a little time off. Sometimes your family is going good, and sometimes there's some type of problem that needs to be addressed. Sometimes your health is good, sometimes it's not. You could be in the middle of a project and fall sick, and now you have to go to the hospital. So now that the work dynamic is off balance. Right. Or if you're sick, your relationship and the work is off balance. And so there's always something that's going to mess you up. Your personal responsibilities may change. Your wife might have a birthday coming up the same time that you have a project that's due. And so now you have to stay up later and sacrifice your health, because you have to make sure that those two other things get the attention that they need. And so aiming for perfection, I think, is something that we should work towards, but we should not become driven by it, because then it creates a level of stress that totally counteracts what we're trying to achieve. What I think is that we should do is we should work on realizing what needs to be prioritized at a given time. There's sometimes you're going to have to work on a project, but you know you're going to have to put in time with the family because they're lacking while that project is going on. But I think health should always be a factor in the mix, because at the end of the day, you can have your family, you can have your money, but then you die young because you didn't take care of your health. You ate out instead of coming home to eat meals because you're busy working at your job a little too long. And so balance to me is subjective. It's a little different for everyone. You see all these people on the internet talking about, I retired at 30 and you can do this too. All you have to do is get this package for $1,000 and I'll show you how to get to it. But then, do you feel guilty when you're at home not working like everyone else? Because I think society tends to shame us if we don't look like we're working hard. And a lot of us have drunk that Kool-Aid to think that the harder you work, the more successful you're going to be. What about those people who've lucked up on a way of taking care of all their needs financially and they can live an easier life?
Right.
We look at them with a little bit of disgust and jealousy. And so, are we really trying to get that balance, or are we really looking for people to point a finger at?
Wow, that was deep, Dr. Howell. You talked about drinking the Kool-Aid too. And just before I go back over to Dr. Marcia, I personally want to address some simple tips that persons can use to ensure that they create a good work-life balance for themselves. And these are not very hard things to do. It's simple things like setting up some boundaries for your own life. Have clear boundaries. And when I say have clear boundaries, it's knowing what you do now and what you will do then. Having a boundary. Someone might come and say to you, come over here with me, help me to do this. But if you have a boundary that says beyond X time, this is my rest time, this is my meditation time, this is my time with God, then you won't move that boundary. So set that boundary for yourself and make that boundary be clear to others as well. And the other thing I want to say is learning to say no. There was a time in my life when I wanted to help people so much that I had a challenge saying no. Somebody come and ask me to do something, and even if I was tired and just finished working, I tried to help them. That doesn't do anything for us really, because it burns us out more. So that is a second tip to help us to create that work-life balance. And before I go to Dr. Marcia, the final one I'm going to say that also helps us to create a good work-life balance in our lives is to have those relationships that supports us uh, and help us to balance things in a great way. If you have to do everything for yourself, you have to, and when I say relationship, it doesn't just mean work relationship, it could be relationship at home. Somebody help you to do the dishes or to clean the whole house or to run the errands. It could be relationship people that call you and encourage you and help to build you up. It could be a relationship that you can delegate things to and say, do this for me, so your life is in a more balanced state. Those are simple tips that all of us can use to help us to create a greater work-life balance. So Dr. Marcia, do you think that people should really strive to maintain an acceptable work-life balance in their lives?
Well, for me, I think that perfect in quotes work-life balance is extremely possible depending on your mindset and your individual context, what you value. Because again, Dr. Howell made a very effective point. If we allow the world to dictate to us what my personal life should fit in, the mold it should fit in, then work and balance becomes very impossible. But if I put my frame of mind in the frame of mind that God gives us when He says He wishes above all else that we prosper and be in good health, we would have understood that our success is already guaranteed if we are directed by Him and open ourselves for Him to lead us where the treasure is. And that is why sometimes we lay up treasures on earth instead of where it really should be laid up, because it pours out back to us. And that striving to maintain a balance is really the final analysis when we are able to ask the question, was it worth it after all? What was I working all my life for? What did I give up my family for? What did I give up my health for? That is an important question that if we begin to ask no instead of later, then we are able to prioritize and we are able to stand up for what we really value and what life is worth. Life is worth living as it is and not as we want it to be. So, to maintain that balance, we must understand and make the most of our daily life. It does not mean that we do not plan, and it does not mean that we do not make provision. What it means is I do not buy 50 pairs of shoes when I can only wear one at a time. I buy 10. It does not mean that I buy a yacht that I use once a year when I can really do something for somebody in my family that is extremely poor and that would need my assistance. That money that I'm using to buy the yacht, I can use it to assist him. So life becomes more meaningful and purposeful for me. So for me, you must maintain and strive to maintain the work-life balance so you can give a just and fair account to the powers that be for how you use the resources, physical, mental, spiritual, financial resources that he has lent to you to give him glory and to serve your fellow man. If you cannot answer that question, we are all in trouble.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Marcia. We are almost at the point of wrapping up this our lunch and learn today. Some very powerful points made right there. Dr. Howell, I am going to ask you to add your final words. We just about a few minutes to go. I don't see any notes in the chat. If you have a question in the chat, if you're watching us, go ahead and drop it so that we can answer that question. If it's a comment that you have, please do so as well. We are talking today about balancing work and personal life. Dr. Marcia just spoke. She is a strategic leadership coach and she's a Christian life consultant. And she just spoke about that part of balancing life. Dr. Howell is just about to speak. He is a life happiness and relationship coach and consultant, and also a master life coach. Give us your parting words to this audience today, Dr. Howell. And at the end of it, tell the audience how they can find you to assist them in balancing their life. Relationship life and happiness is what you major in. Talk to the audience as well about how they can connect with you for those sessions that you offer.
All right, well, thank you very much. I just want to bring up a couple of things that I don't think that we talked about very much. We talked about prioritizing, but we didn't talk about the proper tools that we can use. So one of the tools that we can use is called the Eisenhower Matrix. That particular one, it stresses finding things that are urgent versus things that we deem important. A lot of things that are important can be delegated. And so if you can start to write down some of the lists that you have, then you can identify what is the most urgent and work at that, chip away at those things first. And so that takes another thing, which is making sure that you practice time management. You set time limits on everything that you do so that you can achieve certain things by the end of the day. But the biggest thing, I believe Brian Tracy talks about it quite a bit, is once you start a task, finish it. Because a lot of times we start 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tasks, and at the end of the day, none of them are completed. And so there's nothing wrong with starting everything, but you need to get at least 2 to 3 of those things finished every day. That way you can check things off your list of completion. Because remember, we talked about not having to-do lists, but to complete lists. And so check off your to complete list so that when you look at it tomorrow, there's less things that you need to do. And last but not least, we cannot, especially as a race of people, forget self-care. Self-care is very important. We have to eat properly. We have to exercise. We have to do those things, especially once we hit 40 and 50. Because what's the point of getting all that money or chasing after that money, and then you die soon after you get it? And so change your mindset, like Dr. Marcia said. You have to get your mindset right. Your mindset has to be heavenly bound and not worldly bound. And so worldly bound. And so we have to make sure that we're not chasing the dollar in the detriment of our health. And you can reach me quite a few ways. My email is Dr. Siegfried Howell at gmail.com. You can also find me at Siegfried, www.siegfriedhowell.com. And Siegfried is Siegfried, Howell, HOWELL.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Howell, the life, happiness, and master coach and consultant. Just talk to you about that uh, urgent and important how to basket things in their different areas. Dr. Marcia, what's your parting word to the audience today? And let the audience know how they can find you for greater help.
What I would say, and it's really a slang that I saw somewhere: love yourself, protect yourself, hug yourself, and value yourself. I say, live every day as if it was the last day that you were living on earth. That will help you to strike the right balance and put your heart where it really should be. The final thing I want to do as my parting word is to leave a question with you. What is it that you would want to be able to do if you were told you would die today? What is it that you want to be able to do if you were told that you would die today?
Mm.
Live every day in that way, accomplishing something that you would never want not to have accomplished if you should pass today. And that will give you the balance that you need. Prioritize yourself. And as you preserve and take good care of yourself, you will start to work smarter and not harder. That's my final words.
And how can persons connect with you, Dr. Marcia?
Right?
Powerful
To
words.
connect with me, you can find me at drtpmotivate2.com, or you can connect with me at drtpmotivateme2 at gmail.com. Other
Excellent.
than that, you can call me at 408-9565, or make an appointment if you go on LinkedIn and go to my profile on my calendar.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Marcia. Ladies and gentlemen, I see Mrs. Henderson joining us from out of Jamaica. Thank you for dropping that in the chat right there. If you have just joined us, we were talking about balancing work and life. And as I close off today, I want you to, in your own individual spaces, pause to evaluate. Pause to evaluate, thinking about your own life, taking the time out to understand how the various aspects of your life, work and personal life, are in balance or out of balance, and how these are impacting your daily life. When you have paused to evaluate, then the next thing I say, start to assess your priorities. What is most important to you? What really matters to you? And what is it, as one of my counterparts says before, what is it that you're seeking to achieve? What are the things that you would compromise on, and what are the things that you wouldn't compromise on? Think about those questions. Ask yourself the real challenging questions. Where can I integrate my responsibilities into my work and life balance so that everything comes into balance? Only you can do it. It is all within you to do it, to create that real life balance in your life and for your life. So, as we leave you today on this topic, work and life balance, we want you to make sure that you take away something from here so that your life will start, if it's not there yet, or creating a greater sense of balance for your life. I know that you can do it. You just have to start. You can begin today and make it an intentional and consistent process, and you will eventually get there. We thank you for allowing us to come into your Friday midday here to sit with us in our lunch and learn. We will be back on Tuesday morning at 7:45 a.m. as we do another audio session on LinkedIn, and where we talk about another topic that we believe is so important or even critical to life. We are back on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern in the Zoom room where we have our fireside chat, where we share again with a guest on a very important topic. And then on the Friday, like today, we will be back, God's willing, at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we have this lunch and learn session. We want to thank you so much for joining us. We want to wish you a wonderful rest of your weekend. Please take a bit of time out over this weekend and think about your own work and life balance, and start, if you are not there yet, to create that balance in your life. God bless you, and you have a wonderful rest of your week. Dr. Marcia and Dr. Howell, thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful co host on this, our program. Take good care, everyone. See you next week, God willing. Bye bye.
Bye.